Indians. In the fall, we'd reap the sugar cane that was over 8 feet tall. It seemed so much taller than me compared to the corn husks we'd gather to feed the pigs and put in the swill and such after we'd harvested the corn and dried it. The corn stalks we'd stand up in rows to save space. "I look forward to taking down the sugar cane," I said to Thel as we felled another stalk. "I enjoy the sweet taste of molasses," Thel agreed. "It's funny how we crave sweets sometimes. Mother says I have a sweet tooth, but she loves molasses as much as I do," I replied. "It gives us something to look forward to," he agreed. "Kinda heavy," I complained, as we stacked the stalks across the haystack instead of lengthwise so we could haul more. I loved getting to go to Ruby Liston's sorghum mill in Escalante. He always had plenty of molasses to share when we'd bring a load in. He was a very honest man. He'd take half the molasses he made from our crop so he could sell it, and the other half we kept. One day a group of us boys were passing Ruby Liston's mill. Some of the boys began to taunt him. "Roofy Goofy Long Toes, Roofy Goofy Long Toes." It made me quite upset to hear them saying such an awful thing. "He's one of the nicest men in town. You don't know what his toes look like." "He doesn't care. He just ignores us," was their reply. "He's so kind to us. Maybe one day he won't give us any more treats," I defended him. He was a kind man. He lived to be quite old. Occasionally, Vay and I would peek in at Father's store on our way home from school, always with an alternate motive. "Do you think your father will give us some taffy?" Vay questioned. "I hope so," I replied, hesitating at the door, though. "Will you go in and ask Vay?" "Sure," Vay said. "I'm not scared of my brother." "That's because he never gave you a whipping," I defended. "Wanted to a couple of times. He gave me a few cuffs to my face," Vay said as he entered the store. "Not with a belt," I thought. "Your father never let him do that to you." "Your father's haggling with the Indians over some goods they want to trade for pine nuts," Vay said. "I'm not going in," I said. "Why not?" Vay asked. "He's laughing with them." "I don't want to," I said, and I crossed the rutted street toward my house. "See ya," Vay said, as he entered the store to get the mouth-watering treat I craved. I didn't start for home until sometime later. Instead, I crouched down in a nearby ditch and watched quietly for Indian Pete and one of his plural wives to emerge from the store. I wonder if it's one of them I'm related to, I thought, as I watched the ragtag pair walk toward me and Pete's pony. Dad's always saying he's going to give me back to the Indians. Maybe they're the ones. All of a sudden, a sickening thought hit me. What if they see me and take me with them? Mother's always saying how sad it is that so many of their children have died from want of food and exposure to the winter storms. Pete's startled pony reared up, letting the half-worn dusty blanket fly, and I yelled in fright. Pete laughed. His partly toothless grin enveloped his face. "Maybe we'd take the boy home," he said to Janie, woman of sorrows. "He made a good son for you." Jenny laughed and said, "Boy, go home." I don't know if I ever ran so fast in my life. Later I asked Mother, "Am I an Indian?" Mother chuckled. "No, you're not an Indian." "What gave you that silly notion?" she asked. "Father always says he'll give me to the Indians if I don't mind my P's and Q's," I said. "There's no Indian blood that I know of," Mother said. "Both your Grandpa and Grandma Nielsen are Danish. Your father's mostly English." "Uncle Phil said one of our relatives married an Indian," I insisted. "Did hear tell him one of them married a Navajo Indian, but they didn't have any kids. They're fine, high-class people. That's why I named you Orion. Your grandmother's Scythus family came from the south. They were southern ladies. She told me about the sky and the constellation Orion. And that's what you're named after." "Maybe that's why I like watching the stars so much," I said, taking some comfort from Mother's words. I slept better that night, but still wondered why my skin was so dark. Many years later, when I was in Hawaii, I blended with the natives so well they thought I was one of them.